Hi everyone, it's Tag Wednesday today and my name is Rainer and you are on Rainierbooks, you are on BookTube. This is a tag that I want to do because I felt tagged as soon as I saw the tag. It was really a very interesting new one, a new original tag by Jim from Jim's Books, Reading and Stuff. And he has provided us and he has gifted us the A tag, and that's what I'm going to do today. So let's get started. And I start with the prompts. The first prompt is A is for America. What do you consider the great American novel? I have often quoted my great teacher in American literature, Alan J. Hansen from the University of the Pacific in Stockton, California. I do it again today because he taught us in his great lecture. And one of his great lectures, he said that for him, all of American literature starts with one great novel written by a man called Samuel Clemens, actually widely known as Mark Twain. And the novel is called The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. That is his great American novel. And I agree with him in a lot of respects that Huckleberry Finn is one of the great American novels. I don't know if it's the great American novel, but it's one of the greatest American novels, definitely, and will always be, probably. Last year, I have talked about this book before. I do it gladly again. Last year, I read Vanessa Veselka's great American novel, The Great Offshore Grounds. You have everything that's considered to be of importance for a great American novel in there. You have the stride to be a better person, for a better life. You have the frontier in it. Not the frontier in the West, but the frontier on the water, the great offshore grounds. You have two amazing characters and two women characters. It's a feminist book. It's a great American book that covers a lot of the land and has a lot of heart. And this is really a great American novel as well. The Great Offshore Grounds by Vanessa Veselka. If you haven't read it yet, please do so. The second question of the A tag is A is for arc. Which character in literature has the most interesting character arc? And I actually had to look that up. What is a character arc? And then I learned that a character arc is the development of a character in a novel. So which character in literature has the most interesting character arc? There are lots of novels that are coming-of-age novels, Bildungsroman, things like that, where the characters make a development very often. The starting point is in the teens, maybe, when somebody's coming of age, becoming an adult, and the character changes to become a new person that is stronger, that has learned from what he or she has gone through, things like that. So there are many of that novels. But the past is always influencing the people, blah, 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 and so on. In that respect, I could repeat myself and say the character arc of the two main characters of The Great Offshore Grounds is a great development. But I won't do it here because this is BookTube and we like to speak about many books, not only one book. And the book that comes to my mind first was Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, where Pip, the main character, makes a huge development, is coming of age. Another novel that I've read a long time ago, and I really can't say why I'm thinking of that novel now, is Of Human Bondage by Somerset Maugham, which I read so many years ago, maybe rightly or wrongly so. Third question. A is for Australia. What was the last book you read by an Australian author? The last book that I read by an Australian author actually is Scrublands by Chris Hammer, which is a thriller set in the Scrublands in a very deserted area in Australia. It's, I think, a novel about, it's really a tough novel with many murders. There's a journalist coming to a small town in Australia where someone has killed 7 or 8 men or people, and he's trying to sort of investigate what has happened actually, and He discovers a lot of secrets. He falls in love with a beautiful young woman. This is very stereotypical. And she falls madly in love with him. And I wrote on Goodreads when I read that book, actually I wrote, Australia loves croplands. It has been reviewed extremely positive in many outlets. Anyway, I had huge issues with Chris Hammer's debut as a writer. Journalist Martin Scarsden comes into this desert town to report about the small communities dealing with a mass shooting a year earlier when a priest shot 5 people and was then shot to death by a policeman. Scarsden is in his early 40s and almost immediately has sex with Mandalay Blonde, the blonde sick beauty with a little son who is so beautiful that it drips out of the pages a few times. And although so much younger than Scarsden, she opens up to the guy immediately who's a bit younger than the author. Fantasies, ? And small spoiler, there's a happy ending. And then hell breaks loose and things happen. Bad things happen. We found the remains of 2 German girls who were brutally murdered. More people get murdered, and this is just too much. That's what I wrote, Mr. Hammer. It's like the debut album of a teenage songwriter who wants to put everything, literally everything, in her first novel. And the romance, or album, and the romance between Martin Scarsden and Mandalay Blonde is, I'm afraid, not satire. The author means it. And then there's this heat, which probably is the only thing really existing in Australian desert towns, like River's End. So I didn't like that Australian book. So if you have another Australian book, some are on my list, please recommend to me some Australian books. The Yield is already on my list. And I read actually Amnesty by Arvind Adiga last year. And Adiga is an author who is basically coming from India, hailing from India, living in India now again. But he has lived also, or he lives temporarily in Australia. So I don't know if I might be able to count him Australian. So then it would be a very good novel, Amnesty, that is actually situated in Australia as well. So Hammer is the Australian author and Arvind Adiga, the Australian Indian author that I would love to mention here. A is for Austen. What do you plan to read for Jane Austen July? Honestly, nothing. But I will think about it now. So now that because I know that so many people of you do this, everybody loves Jane Austen, and I probably should love her too if I want to be a good member of BookTube. So I might try to read something, and probably I would have to start with Pride and Prejudice. But actually, I wasn't planning reading anything by Jane Austen. But now, Jim, you got me talking about Pride and Prejudice. A is for the 5th prompt. A is for automobile. What is your favorite literary automobile? I'm not a car lover at all. I don't have a driver's license. My last name means pedestrian in English. So now I revealed that about me. So I'm not the automobile kind of guy. And what's my favorite literary automobile? I would go for a very easy solution because I love, as you know, I love the thrillers and books of Michael Connelly. I would go for The Lincoln Lawyer, Mickey Haller, which is not my favorite character of Michael Connelly, but nevertheless, he's driving his office, and that's fascinating me in a way. He's driving his office from a Lincoln. He has his office in the backseat of a Lincoln. The Lincoln Lawyer, played by the wonderful and unforgettable Matthew McConaughey. 6, A is for anonymous. What is your favorite book or poem published anonymously? Unfortunately, no anonymous novels or poems here from me. 7th prompt is A is for autobiography. What was the last autobiography you read? I'm still fighting my way through the autobiography of Barack Obama, which is called The Promised Land. Paula from Draw Your Book is probably desperate because I'm not really getting up to her. I mean, she has read also already quite a lot of the book, but I haven't gotten to it after the first 230 pages because I know there's so many details coming that I am not interested in. So I'm not a big fan of that book apparently. Because it's way too long. So I have to look, but I haven't finished it. So it wasn't the last autobiography I've read. So looking for the last autobiography I've read, I have to go back. Yeah, the last autobiography I read probably was, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was We Have Always Been Here by Samra Habib, a queer Muslim Canadian author who describes her way from Pakistan to Canada, and her coming out, her integration in Canada, how she adapted to life in Canada, her coming out as a lesbian woman, and her growing, her discussions with her family and things like that. That was the last book that I've read that was an autobiography. We Have Always Been Here by Samra Habib. Highly, highly recommendable. And the last prompt already. This is a short tag, but it's a lovely tag, right? And this is A is for audiobooks. Do you consider listening to an audiobook as reading? Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's definitely consuming a book. I wouldn't call it reading, but I have sort of consumed. I have listened to the book. I have gotten the content of the book has gotten into my mind somehow. So I would say yes, you can count books that you have listened to as read books, even if it's a listened book, you know. So I would say yes in the end. Definitely, I consider them, because we have consumed them, right? We are consumers and buy books, and this is commercialism, and we buy them, we consume them, we read them, and we listen to them. Someone else reads them for us if we're lucky, with a beautiful voice. Thanks very much for this tag, Jim. It was a pleasure to do this, and I wonder if you do a B tag as well, but you never know. Let's see to that. Thanks very much for watching this video. As always, mask up, be safe, try to distance yourself from other people. We need still more vaccines out in the arms of the world until we are safe. And I see you very soon. Bye-bye.